Hey everyone and welcome. Today we're going to tackle a really wild idea. What if your consciousness was basically programmable software? We're going to dive deep into a practice called invocation, which is a key technique from this whole system of thought called chaos magic. I mean, think about it. Have you ever wished you could just install confidence like an app on your phone? You're heading into a tough situation and you just wish you could download a different skill, a new personality trait, right when you need it the most? Well, that's exactly the premise we're exploring today. What if you could, on command, temporarily embody a trait? Dial up the eloquence for a huge speech, tap into pure creativity to shatter a mental block, or just find that deep well of courage to face something head on. So, yeah, let's get into how this is supposed to work. Okay, so first things first, we have to get a handle on the core practice here. What exactly is an invocation? What are we really talking about? So, invocation is all about the practical art of internalizing a chosen consciousness so you can directly embody its traits. And this is the key difference, right? It's not an act of worship. You're not praying to something outside of yourself. It's an internal act of becoming that thing, a total psychological shift. Right. So your next question is probably, how is that even possible? Well, the whole idea hinges on this really radical concept at the heart of chaos magic, and it's all about the nature of belief itself. The core principle is this: belief is a programmable tool. It's not some fixed, absolute truth about the world. Instead, it's something you can pick up and use, and then put down when you're done. They actually have a cool name for this: paradigm piracy. It's all about adopting whatever belief system or model of reality is the most useful for what you're trying to accomplish. And this is where it gets really interesting. Take a figure like Zeus. Is he real? Well, in this system, that's not even the right question. It's functionally irrelevant. You just pick the model that works for your goal. So if you see him as a psychological archetype, you can use that to access your own hidden leadership skills. Or, hey, maybe you view him as an informational program, so you can just copy and execute the Zeus code for authority. See how that works? The belief isn't the destination, it's the vehicle to get you there. Okay, so if belief is the software, then how do you actually install it? What's the user interface? Let's break down the actual step-by-step process of how you would perform an invocation. Is really boiled down to three distinct stages. First, preparation. This is where you get super clear on your goal and then choose the right target, the consciousness you need to invoke. Second is the ritual itself. This is the main event, where you enter an altered state and merge with that target. And third, and this is super important, is banishing. Think of it like a psychological logout or a factory reset. And who can you invoke? Well, the list is pretty much endless. You could go traditional, with deities like Mars for aggression or Apollo for artistic clarity. You could use timeless archetypes, the warrior, the sage. But here's where it gets wild. You can even invoke fictional characters. Want the logic of Sherlock Holmes? Go for it. Or you could even invoke an abstract concept itself, like the pure idea of unstoppable confidence. Now, the absolute key to making the ritual part work is achieving a specific state of mind called Gnosis. The simplest way to think about Gnosis is it's a state where your rational, censoring mind, that little voice that's always judging and analyzing, is silenced. It's like opening a direct backdoor to your subconscious, which is where you can actually install this new programming. And there are basically two main roads to Gnosis. You've got the inhibitory path, which is slow, meditative, and controlled. Think sensory deprivation, chanting, slow breathing. You're emptying the mind. This is perfect for invoking something calm or intellectual, like Thoth. On the flip side, you have the ecstatic path. This is all about intensity, chaos, overwhelming the mind with things like frantic dancing, drumming, emotional overload. This is what you'd use for more primal, passionate forces like Pan or Kali. So, right at the peak of that Gnostic state, when your rational mind is completely out of the way, that's when you perform the main event. It's called the assumption of the God form. This is the moment you merge. You actively visualize, you feel, you become the target. You let its consciousness completely overwrite your own for that moment. You stand like it, think like it, feel like it. But then you have to come back to normal. And that's where banishing is absolutely crucial. It's not just about saying, okay, ritual's over. No, it's a critical act of psychological hygiene. This is what keeps the practice safe. It prevents things like ego inflation or, having the aggression of Mars bleed into your 9-to-5 desk job. You have to clean the slate. Okay, before we go any further, there's one really important distinction we need to make clear because it's a super common point of confusion. So what we've been talking about is invocation. That's calling in. The goal is self-transformation. You merge with the entity inside your own consciousness. Its opposite is evocation. That's calling out. Here the goal is totally different. You're trying to manifest an entity externally in a separate space so you can talk to it or ask it to do something. So one is about becoming, the other is about communicating. All right, so that's the theory and the technique. But what's the point? How does any of this stuff actually apply to the real world? Let's talk about some tangible applications. Well, think about your professional life. Imagine you have a critical business meeting or a job interview. You could use this to embody eloquence and confidence right before you walk in. You're basically prepping yourself to perform at your absolute peak. Or what about creative work? If you're an artist or a writer staring at a blank page, this could be a way to break through that block. You could call upon a muse or an archetype of artistry, essentially tapping into a different creative channel that's normally closed off. And this isn't just a one-shot deal for big moments. You can use it for personal development. Say you want to be more disciplined. You could regularly invoke an archetype of discipline. And the idea is that by repeatedly running that program, you actually start to build that trait into your core personality over time. And really, that's the bottom line here. If you strip away all the spooky or mystical language, what you're left with is a kind of psychological technology. It's a structured system for deliberately changing yourself. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative question, doesn't it? If belief really is just a tool, something we use to build our reality and ourselves, then it makes you wonder, which tools are you using right now? And more importantly, which one will you pick up next?